But you know what? When you and I take up this call and we talk about abortion, if we speak about it in church, we're told we're too political. If we speak about it in the political arena, we're told we're too religious. If we speak about it in the world of the media, it's too disturbing. In the world of business, it's too distracting. In the world of education, it's too controversial. In the streets, it's too disruptive. So abortion, if abortion is wrong, where do we go to say so? We go into the churches, we go into politics, into the media, into business, into education, and into the streets. Some churches haven't wanted to get involved in political hassles with the government, so they've been silent on abortion. They didn't want to get involved in hassles from the government. They didn't want to take the fight to the government. So now with the HHS mandate, the government took the fight to them. And when it comes to that mandate, we've got a simple message. We will obey God rather than men. As Alveda can tell us, her uncle said one day to the civil rights movement, we've got a lot of obstacles in our way, but we're not going to let anything turn us around. We're not going to let no dogs turn us around, no water hoses turn us around, no police clubs or jail sentences, and we're not going to let any injunctions turn us around. And so today I say to you, in the pro-life movement, no Planned Parenthood is going to turn us around. No biased media is going to turn us around. No HHS mandate is going to turn us around. No Obama administration is going to turn us around. We are marching for a certainty. And it's not only the certainty that we will arrive at the day of victory for the unborn, it is a certainty that the power which now dismembers them and crushes them and throws them in the garbage is a power which at its roots has already been defeated.
Well, I'll tell you, Father Frank, it's amazing that we're actually sharing the stage with you. When Jason and I were kids, we met you in 1988.
Yes.
You look the exact same. He's got the same hair, the same glasses, and the same outfit. In 1991, that was the height of abortion. It was 2,197 freestanding abortion clinics in America. Today, thanks to the work of Priests for Life and other organizations and Christians and Catholics joining hands and uniting for life, there are less than 600 freestanding abortion clinics in America.
It is our pro-life MAGA class. Good evening, friends. Great to be with you. Father Frank Pavone here, National Director of Priests for Life. Thank you for joining this and our many broadcasts. We have many supporters out there, many friends, and we're going to start, as we usually do, with prayer, using my book, Pro-Life Reflections for Every Day. You shall not murder. Exodus 20:13. God's own finger wrote in stone the commandments that he gave to Moses and through Moses to us. You shall not murder refers to the deliberate act of taking an innocent human life and is forever prohibited precisely because all life belongs to God and God is life itself. Let us pray. Lord, your prohibition on murder was literally written in stone and is as unchangeable as you are. Give all your people the gift of obedience. Amen. Well, I hope you have my book, Pro-Life Reflections for Everyday.com is where you can get it. Just this afternoon, I was personalizing some copies that some of you ordered. I'm glad to sign it for you and put any indication that you would like for me to put in there, either for yourself or someone to whom you may want to give it as a gift. So tonight I want to give you a little bit of an update in regard to the Trump campaign, and then I want to show you a clip from Sean Hannity from just the other night, some interesting insights that he has. But you know, just today it was announced that the Trump campaign wrote a letter to the Commission on Presidential Debates. Now, as we've explained to you, and as you know, one of the things that has not happened yet in this 2020 election cycle, and usually it happens towards the end of September, it starts happening, that there are 3 debates, televised debates between the 2 major presidential candidates. And so this year they are scheduled to begin on the 29th of September. So it's not only all of this month of August that goes by, but practically the whole month of September before we have the first one. And then there are 2 scheduled in October, coming up pretty close to election time. And then in between there's also 1 vice presidential debate. So you've got a presidential debate, a vice presidential debate, 2 more presidential debates. The problem with that schedule is that it's outdated. In other words, that schedule is a carryover from long ago and presumes that the voting doesn't start until after the 3rd debate. When people have heard 3 different formal debates between the presidential candidates, well, you know, they have an influence, these debates, and they're going to learn a lot about where these candidates stand, how they handle themselves, how they answer questions, how they defend their record, how they set forth the agenda that they have for our country, the vision that they have for leading our country. Now, back in 1980, the presidential debates began in that election year on the 21st of September, so that's more than a week earlier than when they're scheduled to begin this time. Do you know how many people that election voted early? Voted by absentee ballot before Election Day? 5%. 5% of voters in the 1980 presidential election voted before Election Day. So 95% of the voters were able to hear all the presidential debates. Last presidential election, 2016, 4 years ago, you know how many people voted before Election Day? Not 5%, 41%. And this year it is expected that half of the voters or more will actually vote before Election Day. In fact, let me give you some more specific statistics than that. By the time the first presidential debate, as it is scheduled now, takes place on September 29th, as many as 8 million voters in 16 different states may have already cast their ballot. By the time the second presidential debate takes place, as it's scheduled now, some 35 million people in 29 states can or will have already cast their ballots. And by the time the third one occurs, in the latter part of October, some 49 million people in 34 different states may well have voted already. The point is very simple, and I need you, and as I will be doing, to talk this up in these coming days. Let's back what the president has done here in saying to the commission. There's a commission that handles the presidential debates and the logistics of them. The president has sent out this letter. We need to back him up. And in our conversation, on our social media, in whatever way we can raise the awareness that, hey, folks, this doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter which side of the political divide you may be on. It really doesn't matter. The question is, should the voters have the opportunity to hear a thorough set of debates before they cast their vote? Not after half of them have already done so. So important. So important. It's just an outdated schedule. Early voting has been increasing, and especially this year by COVID-19, the chaos that this has thrown much of the process into, and the fact that there's going to be so many more absentee ballots and mail-in voting and all this other stuff, this year more than ever. Not just because, in the best of circumstances, if there were no pandemic, the early voting would have been higher than ever this year. But with the pandemic thrown in the mix, my goodness, it's the least we can do is move the debates up, put them at the very beginning of September, so that we can get more voter education going. See, I don't think the Biden people or Biden himself want to even have the debates. Every time he talks, he seems to get himself into more foolish trouble. And I don't know if you saw today how he was it was terrible how he was speaking offensively towards an African American interviewer. I think it was on CBS. I'm sure many of you saw the clip. But I can see how his campaign would say, the more we can keep him out of the public limelight, the better. But how can you lead a country if you can't address the country? How can you ask for votes if you can't engage the voters? President Trump is doing it. Let's see Biden do it as well. Okay, so that's the latest talking point that I want to bring to your attention. And now I want to show you a little video clip from our friend Sean Hannity. And I've known Sean for a long time, and he and I have had many opportunities to chat and to talk and to exchange views. And I'm sure that so many of you are also fans of his and watch his commentary and so forth. It's so encouraging. So many great things and that he has to say and that he has to share with us. So I wanted to share this clip with you from the other night. Let's watch Sean.
Buckle up. We're only 92 days until this election, where you're the ultimate jury. And tonight, the conspiracy theorists on the left, the ones that sold you the Russia hoax, the impeachment hoax, all of them are back in full gear. Hitler comparisons, bizarre fantasies about President Trump getting forcibly removed from office, and a strange a dramatic analogy from Humpty Dumpty on fake news CNN. Just off the rails, total psychosis, but sadly predictable. Now, we're going to show you the worst of the worst coming up. Plus, we have a very special Hannity investigation. Biden's 51 years of public life. Many are wondering, okay, what specifically has he accomplished in over 5 decades in the swamp? Well, our special 2020 correspondent Lawrence Jones hit the streets of New York to find out if anyone could name a single accomplishment. This should be entertaining. And later, Lawrence will also bring us an exclusive investigation into the massive crime wave in de Blasio's New York, with $1 billion in cuts for the NYPD. We're going to show you exactly what defunding the police looks like. Spoiler alert, think war zone. But first tonight, we start with Democratic Majority Whip James Clyburn. He's in leadership, the third highest ranking Democrat in the House, a close Biden ally. And this weekend, well, he continued to float yet more conspiracy theories, kind of the tinfoil hat conspiracy theories about Trump, Putin, Nazi Germany, Mussolini, and fascism. Remember last week he was comparing Trump, using whatever he and Pelosi said, Gestapo tactics and other crazy stuff. Take a look.
Do you really think Donald Trump is comparable to Adolf Hitler?
What I said starting about 2.5, maybe 3 years ago after one of his State of the Unions, that I feel very strongly that this man has taken on strong-arm tactics. And I feel very strongly that he is Mussolini, Putin is Hitler. I believe very strongly that this guy never had any idea about being one to peacefully transfer power. I believe that he plans to install himself in some kind of emergency way to continue to hold on to office.
Nazi analogies, fascist analogies. What you just heard is obviously delusional, but it is the current favorite hoax of the radical left. Now, it's the same cast of Democratic extremists, the same lying mob in the media that brought you the failed Russia conspiracy theory hoax and the failed Ukraine hoax. Well, they now want you to believe that Donald Trump is going to refuse to leave office and become a dictator. Fake news, CNN's April Ryan even openly fantasizing about the president getting pulled out of the Oval Office by armed forces. Take a look.
So there's going to be a split screen on January 20th, 2021. If Joe Biden is now going to be the 46th president of the United States, you will have him being inaugurated and watching police and armed forces trying to pull Donald Trump out of the White House. I cannot wait for that split screen.
This is deranged but sadly predictable behavior. We see it every 2 years and every 4 years. And as we now march closer to the election, the 3-month mark, the smear machine is only going to get worse. Prepare yourself for the greatest insanity, an emotional roller coaster, well, you probably have never seen before. What do every 2 and 4 years? They divide this country, old, young, rich, poor. They use racial identity politics. They have bizarre conspiracy theories. They are even getting more bizarre. And on Sunday, professional Fox stalker, we call him affectionately Humpty Dumpty, literally comparing the president to a driver who is trying to crash his car intentionally. In Humpty's, well, melodramatic scenario, the car represents our democracy. We are a democratic republic if we can keep it, as Ben Franklin once warned. Now, Democrat Jamie Raskin actually accused the president of turning the GOP into a religious cult. And tonight, this kind of extreme rhetoric is not just Trump derangement syndrome. It is an intentional distraction coupled with derangement and real psychosis to keep your attention away from all things, the ever corrupt, confused, and slow Joe Biden. It's also that the Democrats and their state-run socialist TV allies, they're actually scared to death that you, the American people, will re-elect Donald Trump as the 45th president of the United States. And for the sake of our kids and grandkids and the world, I pray we do. They know that Joe is weak. They know he's corrupt. They know his track record is pathetic. He's one of the worst presidential candidates in history. He's hiding because of it. And Pelosi, Schumer, Bolshevik Bernie, AOC's policies, if they are implemented, they will destroy what is the greatest country God has given man and put the world in great peril. Without us leading, world's in deep trouble. Which brings us to an important Hannity history lesson. So in 51 years of public life, okay, ask yourself at home, what has Joe Biden accomplished? I can tell you what Trump's accomplished in less than 4. Let's start with Biden's uncanny knack for always making the wrong decision. For example, Biden opposed the 2011 Navy SEAL raid that killed bin Laden. Biden also spoke out against a successful Petraeus Iraq troop surge in 2007. And Biden was an enthusiastic supporter of Obama's strategy to abandon the Middle East, which, of course, left a massive vacuum that was soon filled by ISIS. Oh, yeah, and he pushed the big lie, keep your doctor plan and save money. Millions lost their doctors, their plans, and we're all paying about 200% more. He voted for the war in Iraq. Now he says a mistake. Biden also on the wrong side of racial integration. Let's go to NBC News, shall we? He led the charge on an issue that kept black students away from the classrooms of white students. As Biden once said, he did not want his children to grow up in a racial jungle. Senator Kamala Harris, now a frontrunner we hear. Who knows, it may be a head fake for Biden's Veep stakes. But just a few months ago, she had this to say about Biden's anti-integration efforts. Wow, take a look.
But I also believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing. And, you know, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
Why didn't Joe Biden at least look somebody in the eye and listen to what they had to say? By the way, Kamala now wants to be Biden's running mate. Pretty pathetic. And by the way, Biden's horrific track record doesn't end there. A few years ago, during the Barack and Joe days, their administration, Biden was the point person for Ukraine, U.S. relations. And during that time, we already know he allowed Putin to steal Crimea, all while zero experience on, well, Hunter got filthy rich thanks to that sketchy deal with a pro-Russian energy company, all while leveraging $1 billion of your money. Quid pro quo Joe, zero experience Hunter. Biden also was in charge of the administration's China policy, and for years, Joe, well, he did his best to cozy up to the country's ruling Communist Party, all while, again, Hunter, well, he struck up yet another lucrative deal, this time with the Bank of China. No experience again that anyone can find. Flash forward to this year when President Trump signed off on the life-saving travel ban to and from China. 10 days after the first identified coronavirus case here, Biden was against the ban. He's the one that called it hysterical xenophobia and fear-mongering. How many thousands of American lives were saved by the president's decision 10 days after that first case in the U.S.? And by the way, to do that while he was also being impeached. Joe, wrong as usual. So with such a horrific track record, well, we sent our own Lawrence Jones, our 2020 correspondent. He went out to the streets of New York to see if anyone could just name a single positive achievement from Biden's 5 decades in public life. I haven't seen this yet. This is going to be interesting.
What would you say is Joe Biden's signature accomplishment?
President Obama's right-hand man.
That's enough for you.
That's plenty.
What is one accomplishment for Joe Biden? He's been in politics for 47 years.
Yeah, I don't know what. I don't
know what?
He's a nice man. He smiles a lot. And I don't see any kind of strength, any kind of inner strength in him to lead a nation that's an absolute mess right now.
You're a Democrat.
I'm a Democrat.
Biden is your person. He's been in office for like 47 years. What would you say is his number one accomplishment?
That again, the people come together.
He brings people together?
Yeah, better than, of course, than Donald Trump.
Biden is the guy.
It's unfortunate that that's all they have now.
They can't answer. He smiles. He's nice. He was selected VP. What did he do for we the people?
All right. So I really enjoyed that clip from Sean. I wanted to make sure that you saw it too. Look, this is one of the things we have to be saying, right? Together with the question I raised earlier, Biden, you know, what does your team say about moving those presidential debates earlier in September so that the half of the voters that are going to vote before Election Day get a chance to see all three of them before they make their final decision? Let's put him in the spotlight about that. But I mean, that question that Sean's clip just ended with, I mean, what an important question. And this, my friends, I wanted to show this to you because, you know, I know you, all of you that are watching, I mean, you're watching here because you are outspoken, as am I. You're not afraid to raise the issues. You'll talk to people, whether it's on social media or email or websites or face-to-face. And here's what you can ask people and should be asking people. Joe Biden went into the U.S. Senate in 1972. Ponder that for a moment. He got into the Senate in 1972. He's been in for a long time there in Washington. What has he accomplished? These people that were interviewed here, Democrats, and they couldn't name anything. What did the man actually accomplish? The accomplishments of President Trump, who was never in the Washington swamp, never a politician, in the 3.5 years that he's been in the Oval Office, my goodness. The list of accomplishments, we can hardly keep up with it. Go to promiseskept.com. And that's, again, a website, my friends, that I need you to just have at the tip of your tongue. Promiseskept.com. Have people go there yourself. Study in every branch, every arena of accomplishments, all that this administration here has done. It's amazing. He has accomplished tremendous things. What has Joe Biden accomplished in all these years? And if somebody has been in office in the federal government as a senator and then as vice president, if somebody's been in office since 1972, well, a pretty good indication of what you could expect from them in the future if they stay in office, especially if they're in office as president, a pretty good indication of what you can expect from them then is what you have seen from them up until now. 1972. What has he? I see if any of your friends who support him. And you know, when you ask what has a person accomplished, you're not looking for platitudes. Oh, he brings people together. Oh, he smiles. Oh, he's a nice guy. That's not an accomplishment. What is President? You got to compare it with things like we can answer when we're asked what has President Trump accomplished. Well, how about bringing our economy to the strongest point that it's ever been brought? Strengthening our military, raising America's standing in the world, getting rid of destructive trade deals like NAFTA that destroy American jobs. All the different things, again, promiseskept.com. I mean, the litany is clear. Actual accomplishments, ridding the world of the two top terrorists. How about that for an accomplishment? It's an actual, measurable, intelligible thing. When you say, oh, you know, he was Obama's right-hand man, Obama's vice president. That's not an accomplishment. You have to look for concrete, intelligible, measurable things that would not have happened. VA choice that the President Trump has accomplished. Prison reform for the black community. Historic funding of HBUCs, historical black universities and colleges. On and on the litany goes. Bringing unemployment among the African American community, among so many other communities, to their lowest levels ever. Cutting regulations like no president has ever cut. Putting 200 judges on the federal courts. Evidence-based, like Doris is saying, evidence-based. Don't let people wiggle away from this with platitudes. Oh, I like him. Oh, he's progressive. All this other garbage, literal garbage that people are going to say about this man. Where's the beef? Like the famous commercial says, where's the beef? That's what we have to challenge our friends. And this has got to be an election, my friends, where you and I have to force people to think. As Cheryl is saying, the media ignores the accomplishments of President Trump. They have focused us for his entire administration on conspiracy theories that have amounted to nothing. Waste of time. And we should be angry. I'm glad that Cheryl put the little angry face emoji, red hot with anger. Yeah, we should be angry. You know, they have wasted the time and energy of the American public on these fake hoaxes, the Russian collusion, and nothing, it amounted to nothing. The Ukraine, oh, what a terrible crime, and they impeached, the House of Representatives went through this sham impeachment, the first and only purely partisan impeachment in American history. And they didn't even have a crime to accuse him of. They used, platitude, abuse of power. What in the world does that mean? Like the president says, these people are sick. These fake news media, these Democrat, left-wing people, they are sick. You know, Sean Hannity used the word psychosis, and, we don't use that word lightly. I agree with him. Now, I work with a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists. I have to because, we're dealing with the abortion issue. We're dealing with, we have the biggest ministry in the world for healing the wounds of abortion. So we've got to know something about the wounds of abortion. Believe me, I deal with a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists. And, we talk about politics too. And, psychosis, you know what psychosis is? I mean, we all have some form of neurosis. I don't know if you remember the little book that was written years ago called We Neurotics. We can all smile at that. We all have quirks. We wouldn't be human if we didn't, right? And we can joke about it. We got to be able to laugh at ourselves. That's a healthy thing. We laugh at ourselves. So we neurotics, okay. So in neurosis, it's a little quirk, a bad man. I mean, you get along in life just fine. Everybody knows the people that they know. Everybody knows the quirks that they have. Okay, and we can laugh at it. It doesn't interfere with our functioning, and it doesn't break us from reality. It exaggerates little things here and there. I save a lot of things. I have my school notes from grade school. Actually, it helps me when I save things. I have my yearbooks and scrapbooks and things, and things I wrote in the past. I find it very helpful to be connected with who I was in the past because you learn from that and then, it gives you direction for the future. Some people are just the opposite, right? Some people are just the opposite. Throw everything away right away. Okay, there's different personality traits. So we're all neurotics. But psychosis is a break from reality. Patricia was a psych nurse for 10 years, so you know what I'm talking about better than I do. Psychosis is an actual break from reality. Now, I talk with one of our foremost pro-life psychiatrists in the world is Dr. Philip Ney. He's a Canadian psychiatrist, and he and I have talked about this, that, when you say, in our day and age, with our level of scientific knowledge in 2020, and fetal diagnosis and therapy and test tube babies and all this other stuff, when you say the baby in the womb is not a baby, that literally is a break with reality. I mean, you might as well say the earth is flat. Because you have broken with all the evidence and all the knowledge, not theory, knowledge, the knowledge that we have, that the baby in the womb is a baby, the knowledge that we have when human life begins, when your specific biological organic life began, we know when it began and how it began. The process of fertilization is known to us. It's established scientific knowledge. So to deny that that exists is a break from reality. Or to say, even, and this is even crazier, well, it's a baby if I want it, but if not, well, it's just disposable, massive tissue. Break with reality. the way that these Democrats have been acting over these last 3.5 years, it really is a syndrome. And it's a Trump derangement syndrome. Because anything that's connected with President Trump, they have to twist it, they have to deny it, they can't look at his accomplishments, they invent things out of thin air. They say, oh, we have all kinds of evidence of collusion, and meanwhile, everybody's still saying, where is it? Where is it? It's nowhere. And I mean, so, and this is why, in our own interaction with people, it can be so contentious. I mean, if you're going to have an honest conversation with people who are rational, you can go a long way. Look at all the accomplishments and discuss, which vision for America is better. But we've got to get really, really good. I want to ask you, my friends, to really study, have at your fingertips these accomplishments of President Trump. Because, for those who will listen, and there are many people, right? I mean, we all have people in our circle of influence who will listen, who will have a rational conversation, who won't try to shut us up, who won't try to say to me, because I'm a priest, I'm not supposed to be talking about these things. How stupid is that? But when we have people that we can have a real conversation, a rational conversation, we can make progress. One of you said earlier in the comments, and please give me your questions, give me your thoughts. I want to interact with you here before we finish. But one of you was saying early before, a lot of the arguments have been settled in a lot of people's minds. Yeah, it's true. A lot of people have made up their minds. As a matter of fact, if you look at the last couple of election cycles, the number of people who are identifying themselves as undecided as our national elections approach has gotten smaller. So, people are moving out of the middle. They're identifying themselves with one or another camp, and the number of people, quote, in the middle have gotten smaller. However, they're still there. And they're the ones that are going to decide this election. Because we're talking about an election that can end up being as razor thin as any of them have been in the past. Do you remember, those of you that do remember, the year 2000, 20 years ago, right here in the state of Florida where I'm broadcasting from, we had 537 votes determine that President George W. Bush would become president. 537 votes after a lot of contentious court battles and going all the way up to the Supreme Court. That's not a lot of votes. And I think that this year's election can end up being in that same category. Doris is pointing out something very important. Twitter and Facebook clamping down on Trump's messages. There are certain things we can't control. There are other things we can control. And I want to appeal to you, and a lot of you, of course, you're watching me now on social media and other platforms. Utilize these tools. You are utilizing them, but really redouble the effort that you put into utilizing these tools, because there's bias, there's censorship, there's clamping down. But honestly, I don't focus so much on that as on the fact that we are able to get a lot of messages through. I mean, you're watching this right now. We don't hold back on these programs, and we're able to get a lot of messages through, and so are you. Let's focus on expanding our not only our own activity, but also the folks who are listening to us. Tell them to start using social media more. Go to Team Trump. Those of you that use Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter, it's FR Frank Pavone. But I want to invite you to the Team Trump Twitter page. Retweet every day what you find there, because Team Trump is getting the best arguments, up to the minute strategic messaging, accomplishments of the president, accomplishments of the campaign. Team Trump. Get that on Twitter and follow them. Maria, thank you for your comment. Let's read what you're saying. Trump all the way. My family has disowned me because I'm a pro-life mom and Trump supporter. Pray, amen. Well, Maria, God bless you. Blessed are those, the Lord said. Blessed are we when they criticize us, ridicule us, persecute us, call us names, disown us. I'm very sorry to hear. I mean, that's a strong word, and I know that this is actually happening to a lot of people. Would that they would only realize that, you know, this is not. You said because you're a pro-life mom, you know, and what Cheryl is saying is such right-on kind of advice here. No matter the bullying, no matter the mean comments, do not give up promoting Trump 2020, and then you got the 3 flags there. I won't stop sharing. We just put the yard signs out in front of our building here, proudly, for the president and vice president, for our local congressman, who's a pro-life congressman, Bill Posey. We put the Trump signs out right out there in front of our building just the other day, and proudly do that. You know, folks, would that people would just realize that when we say we're pro-life, when we say we're pro-Trump, that it's out of love for them. It's out of love for them. Don't they realize that? Of course they don't. But that's what we have to keep reminding them about. And you know, when it comes to the pro-life, pro-abortion debate, it's not that either pro-life wins or pro-abortion wins. Either pro-life wins or nobody wins. There's no victory in death. People who are in favor of unrestricted abortion, like the Democrat Party is, like the Biden campaign is, people who are in favor of unrestricted abortion, who benefits from that? Think about it for a moment. Nobody does. The babies who are killed. They obviously don't benefit. The moms are wounded deeply. We had a whole conversation about that last night. Read the testimonies, right, at abortiontestimonies.com, our Silent No More campaign. The dads are damaged. The grandparent, the whole family is damaged. Society is damaged. Our moral fabric gets weakened. Who wins when pro-choice wins? Who wins when the abortion lobby wins? It's not pro-life wins or pro-choice wins. Either pro-life wins or nobody wins. And we can say the same thing about the difference now between the Republican and the Democrat vision for America. It's not even either Democrats win or Republicans win. If Republicans and President Trump don't win, nobody wins. Because these people on the left who are going to control Biden, and notice what I'm saying very carefully here, they will control Biden. They don't want America the way our founders established it. They don't want it. They don't believe in it anymore. They hate it, as a matter of fact. They look down on it. What we're proud of with America and waving the flag and singing the national anthem, we are proud of our flag, which I have it right here, our anthem, our history, and our president. We are proud of these things. And again, excuse me for, my personal venting, but my gosh, I really had it up to here with these people that keep saying to me, oh, well, you're a priest, you shouldn't be saying these things. Oh, you have a nonprofit group, you shouldn't be saying this. Listen, you go haunt a house, go someplace else, I mean, people who say these things, what are they? They don't even believe in free speech, much less believe in the Republican vision of America or the Founding Fathers. They don't even believe in free speech. Oh, my goodness. But the point is, though, that, it's not just Republican wins or Democrat wins. It's got to be America wins. It's not just Republican wins or Democrat wins. It's got to be our families, our children win, our grandchildren win. Win how? Win that they live in a country that's strong and safe. Win because they live in a country that believes in freedom the way our founders established it. Win because they live in a country where believers can receive the faith and spread the faith and live the faith without oppression by the government. Win in the sense that America is respected throughout the world. Win in the sense that our economy is strong, that our trade deals are fair, that our veterans are protected, that our borders are intact, that our military is restored. All these things President Trump has done. Win in the sense that our courts actually follow and apply the Constitution and respect the laws as they're written, instead of having activist judges in there who just put their own opinions into their decisions. President Trump wins, or nobody wins. President Trump wins, and that means America wins. Susan is saying, I've been beat up on social media. Oh, now, Susan, thank you for saying this. I've been called by my Catholic friends stupid and mean, filthy words. I am persevering for the unborn. Thanks, President Trump. We have your back, and we'll pray for the folks that choose not to vote for life. You know, I've experienced the same kind of thing. And you mentioned you've been called these mean names by your Catholic friends. What is it about them? What is it about these folks that are claiming to be Catholic? There's a disease going around in the Catholic community, my friends. I'm a priest. I know the ins and outs of the church. I even worked at the Vatican for a few years. I don't know if you knew that. But back in the late 90s under Pope John Paul II, I was an official of the Vatican, living over there and working in the Vatican offices every day. It was the office that dealt with pro-life, dealt with bishops throughout the country for the last 30 years. Seen a lot of stuff in the church. And there is a disease going on right now. It is a disease. Just like we were talking before about the psychosis and the Trump derangement syndrome, and Sean Hannity in that great clip we showed you was talking about the same kind of thing. But it's particularly bad among Catholics, is what it seems to me. Because, we have, it's such a big church. It's a hierarchical church. It's a sacramental church. It's a visible church and very, very long history. It's a strong religion. And when we have such a strong religion and a strong set of doctrines, and then under that umbrella, we take the wrong road politically, it's a particularly poisonous thing, because the covering of Catholicism makes it appear to so many people to be so respectable. It's respectable, and then we delude ourselves into thinking it's okay for us to be, left wing and oh, I'm a Catholic. Oh, I don't want any borders. I'm a Catholic. Hey, let everybody come on into the country. No vetting or anything like that. What do we do, as Patricia is saying? What do we do? First and foremost, we live faithful ourselves. That goes a very long way, because people are noticing. We're giving example. People are noticing. As Tracy is saying, some Catholics claim to be pro-life but always vote Democrat. I just don't get it. Neither do I. I mean, it's really bad. A lot of them really don't know how badly the Democrat Party has become corrupt, and it has become morally corrupt. A lot of them don't know the change. They're voting Democrat because their family always did, or their church always did, or their union always did. And they're sort of going on automatic pilot now from having done it for generations, not having paid attention to the fact that the party has abandoned fundamental moral principles. They're going to issue their platform, by the way, coming now a week from Monday. So August the 17th, during those days, the Democrat, quote, convention, it's basically going to be a series of virtual events, is going to take place. But on the 17th, one of the things that'll happen and I want to ask you to pay attention to this, is that the Democrat platform will be reissued. Now, the Republican platform is going to stay the same. You know, these platforms are issued every 4 years, and when they have the conventions in the presidential year in the summertime before the election. So that's the time frame we're in right now. And the Republican platform, they're going to reaffirm the same one. The Democrat platform, they're working on some adjustments to it. Let's find out what that's going to look like. It's not going to be any less radical. It'll be more radical. And we should point that out. We're preparing a comparison piece. You may want to pre-order it, but you go to votinginfo.net. You'll see the comparison piece for the current platform, votinginfo.net. Let's put that on the screen also. And that's where you'll be able to see the current 2016 platform. Remember, that's the current one now, even though it's 2020. The platforms are quoted on a variety of issues many of you have and use this comparison piece that we've put together. The one we're going to put together for 2020 is going to be a little different because we will have one side English, the other side Spanish. And we're going to have, as I mentioned before, the Spanish. We're going to have one of these evenings in Spanish coming up pretty soon. I was just talking to some Hispanic leaders today that are going to join me for this evening broadcast, and we're going to speak en español about the importance of this election. It'll be English and Spanish, so all of you that are here now, if you don't understand Spanish, don't worry, you'll still be able to follow what we're saying, but I do want to have people feeling free to ask questions in Spanish, so you know some Spanish, not only Spanish-speaking people, but people of the Hispanic community. We're going to address concerns particular to them. Patricia is saying, I thought the Dems were going to announce Biden's running mate for VP. Yeah, that was the word we originally got, is that was going to be this week, and now apparently they're putting it off a little bit longer. He wants to spend a little more time with his top options and see what the decision is going to be. I think there's something else going on here, though. I think the whole Democrat mindset right now is very simply this. Let's keep everything in lockdown until November 3rd. You watch. November 4th, poof! No more lockdowns, no more shutdowns, everything get back to normal. But I think the Democrats really want to keep things as locked down as possible until then, so that there's minimal interaction. It's really sad that Matt, isn't it sad, Matt, that Matt is saying something stupid here, but he's probably used to doing that. They don't have Biden saying much, and I think they don't want to participate in the debates. They certainly don't want them to be early. We'll see what happens, but that's what they think that they can get away with, just like Matt thinks that he can get away with saying stupid things. The director of Priest for Life advocating for a specific candidate. Hey, Matt, what do you want, to elect a baby killer? What the heck is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? And with the people that are like you? Oh, boy, you people are on a quick road of descent into a country that you wouldn't even recognize if your idiot candidates got into power. Bunch of idiots. They really, not only idiots, they're evil. They're evil. Matt, you throw in your lot with them, mark my words. You will be regretting it, and you will be begging. The day will come, you'll be on your knees begging, oh, word that there were more Father Franks speaking up about this. Why did all those organizations act in such a cowardly, stupid way? Why didn't they warn us we were going to fall off a cliff and fall into a volcano, Matt? You see, friends, I really, Lynn is saying, in your opinion, what are the chances of President Trump winning this election? Brothers and sisters, very, very high. This man won this election in 2016 with the conglomerate of opinion on the day before the election saying that Hillary Clinton had 98% of a chance of winning the election. Now, he won by a strong electoral margin because he won by a relatively small margin of popular votes in the key states. That's what happened. And he won those margins in the key states because people who had never voted before, people who hadn't voted in a decade or more, 6 million of them, came out of the woodwork from places where the pollsters weren't counting on them coming out from. This is what happened 4 years ago. And and now, these were people who heard the president promise things, heard how he spoke, knew how he was presenting a vision for America that was fresh and bold and optimistic, and he didn't have any track record in politics whatsoever. So the folks that came out of the woodwork, okay, not foreseen by the pollsters then, and still not having still not having the attention of the pollsters now, okay? And they came out, and that's how we won. So the thing about it is this. That happened when Trump didn't have any political track record. Now, he does. People voted for him saying, well, I don't want Hillary. And Trump, I think there's a chance that he'll be good, certainly be better than Hillary. But a question mark, they had a question mark about what would actually be the accomplishments of President Trump. And now there's an exclamation point. And as we were saying before, the exclamation point is backed up by a long litany. PromisesKept.com. Matt, thank you for responding further. You're a Catholic. God bless you. I hope that you're pro-life as well. You're taking some offense to people thinking that I am speaking for the church. Well, no. I am. Then thank you for saying that. I'm not speaking for the church. I'm speaking for exactly what I'm saying, no more, no less. Now, if you're a member of the church, when you speak up, that's the church speaking too. When all of our supporters here on this feed speak up, they're the church too. So we're all the church. Nobody really speaks for, nowadays when you've got bishops hiding sexual predators and other bishops teaching heresy and clergy, sometimes you don't know what the heck they believe, and the Pope saying things that confuse people left and right, it's hard to tell anymore who speaks for the church. I'm not interested in speaking for the church, but I am interested in saying things that make a hell of a lot of sense. And that's why people come and listen to me. I could take this collar. You know what? If I took this collar off right now, you tell me, my friends who are supporters and who listen to these things, would what I say still make sense? That's why I say it. This is not an argument from authority. This is an argument from the argument. It's not good to kill babies. You don't have a nation if you don't have borders. And on we can go. Look at the accomplishments. What has Joe Biden accomplished since being in office since 1972? I mean, all I'm doing is raising questions for people to think about and to care about. And if my words carry weight with people as a moral authority, then I better make sure that I say the morally correct things, right? And I don't think, saying something like you don't kill babies has any question about whether it's moral or not. Religion and politics, two things who don't go together. Right, JB? Hey, congratulations. You just advocated for chaos and anarchy and mob rule and all those folks that are burning down buildings and tearing down statues and creating ruckus in our cities. They'd be proud of what you just said. They'd be proud. Religion and politics. Hey, listen, politics, it ought to be as pagan as it can be, right there, JB, as pagan as the day is long. You can't be rooted in anything that religion talks about, because then you're talking about God and you're talking about morality and you're talking about right and wrong and politics. It's just about raw power, everybody. It's about power. It's about, see what ladder you can climb by crushing the rights of other people. It's all about the law comes from the mouth of the king, right, JB? Whoever's in power, they do whatever they want. Don't got to worry about what religion has to say about it. Friends, have you read anything? I'm talking to JB and the people who think like he does, because every once in a while we get these comments, about religion and politics not mixing. And Matt, we'll get back to your comment in just a second. Thank you for continuing to comment. Who say religion and politics don't mix? And it's like, have they read any of the founding fathers? I want to recommend a book. If you're coming on here and you're saying this, so presuming that you're really interested in it and you want to delve into it, look up a book called Original Intent. It's by a gentleman who's an historian by the name of David Barton. Original Intent. He quotes and analyzes the thinking of the founding fathers. Now, it could be that some of the people say religion and politics don't mix, really don't care about America. Well, if you don't care about America and you belong to some other country that maybe doesn't have as strong of a vision as we do, okay, that's a separate story. But even there, here's the question you need to ask. First of all, read Original Intent by David Barton. I'm sure that many of the rest of you know about that book. But here, my friend, is the question that we need to ask. If a people, if a nation, if people who can vote, if people who can engage in politics, and if people who can be elected are going to govern themselves and are going to do what's good for the people they govern, don't they have to know the difference between right and wrong? If you don't know what truly promotes the good of the human person and the human community, the good, not just physical but moral, if you don't know what contributes to the good as opposed to what contributes to evil, how can you govern? How can you govern as an elected official? How can you govern yourselves as a voter? That's why George Washington, our first president, and in fact all the founding fathers, that's why in the Declaration of Independence they mention the laws of nature and of nature's God. They talked about God, they talked about morality, and they said religion is an indispensable support. That's the phrase George Washington used, an indispensable support. Now follow the logic here. It's okay if you don't agree with it, but understand it. That religion and morality are necessary for the experiment in self-governance to succeed, because to govern yourself, to govern a whole nation, you need to know what direction you're going to go in to benefit the people. And religion and morality provide that grounding. Now, this is different from establishing a state religion by law. We don't agree with that. And in that sense, that's where the authentic understanding of the separation of church and state comes. There is an authentic meaning to that. We wouldn't want there to be a law that says you have to go to Mass on Sunday. We wouldn't want there to be a tax imposed if you don't read the Bible every day. We don't believe in the civil government imposing a religion. We don't believe, when you take your oath of citizenship as an American, you also have to, inscribe your membership in the Christian denomination. We don't advocate that at all. But that's a far thing from saying that religion and politics don't mix. Jesus didn't even say that. Jesus said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, but to God what belongs to God. He says Caesar has to obey God. And our founding father, whether you look at it from the viewpoint of religion, religion has a lot to say to the state. The church has a lot to say to the state. Just read the Catechism. Read the Second Vatican Council's documents. Read the Compendium of the Social Doctrine of the Church, a big book this thick. talking a lot about politics. So the church has a lot to say to the state. Morality has a lot to say to politics. And the state has a lot to say about the church. The state is supposed to be protecting the rights of the citizens to practice their faith, not interfering with it. Under Biden as vice president, they interfered with our right to practice our faith. They told us we would be fined unless we included certain forms of abortion in our health insurance plans that we offered to our employees. And hey, we said from day one, we're not going to do that. We're good Americans. We want to be good Americans. We want to be good Christians. And you know what? The good news about the kind of country we have is you can do both. And that's what the freedom of religion is, and that's what the separation of church and state is. You can be both a good believer in whatever religion you want and a good American citizen. So read Original Intent by David Barton. Now, Matt, final thing here about what you're saying. I think there are a lot of issues beyond abortion that people care about. I agree with you 1,000%. Of course there are. There's a lot of other issues I care about. But think of it this way. Why is an issue that we should care about in the first place? What makes an issue an issue? What makes an issue important to care about? I care about unemployment. I care about poverty. I care about immigration. I care about health care. You do too. I'm sure you do. All of us do. I don't think there's a single person listening to us that doesn't care about a whole wide range of issues. But here's my question. What makes an issue important? Isn't it that it impacts human life? I mean, you know, the temperature on the planet Mars, it's an issue, but is it really an issue for us? I mean, is it something we debate, we care about? What makes an issue is a lot of interesting things we could think about, a lot of conceptual things we could debate, but that doesn't make them issues. What makes something an issue is how it impacts human life. Think of unemployment. I'm concerned about unemployment, but why? We have to get to the why the issue is important. I'm caring about unemployment because people have a right to work, and they have a right to make a living so that they can buy food and clothing and shelter. Well, why do they have a right to make a living? Because they have a right to live. Am I concerned about poverty? Absolutely. Why? Because people need enough food and clothing and shelter. Well, why do they need those things? Because they have a right to live. I'm concerned about terrorism and stopping the terrorists. That's why I'm so grateful President Trump rid the world of the two top terrorists. But why should terrorism be an issue? Well, because terrorists kill people, and people have a right to be protected from terrorists. Well, why do they have a right to be protected from terrorists? Because they have a right to live. If human beings did not have the right to live, if they could just be disposed of, then why would we care about their education? Why would we care about their health care? Why would we care about protecting them from crime? Why is an issue an issue? If not because of the right to life. So no, we're not saying abortion happens to be the issue I care about. That's my full-time work, okay, Matt? It's my full-time work, fighting abortion, and it has been since I've been a teenager. But some people's full-time work is, battling alcoholism. Alcoholics Anonymous. Do they not care about people who aren't alcoholic? Well, of course not. That's not fair to say. That it happens to be their focus. People who focus on, taking care of criminals on death row, they care about other issues too. Here's the point. We care about this issue simply because it's at the foundation of all the other issues. If we take away a person's right to live, which is what abortion does, well, then you take away their education. You take away their right to live, you've taken away their health care. You've taken away their right to live, you've taken away their right to immigrate too. Okay, so I hope that, thank you for engaging in these questions. I really do appreciate it. Christine, Father, what is your response to Democrats who want to tax the church? Well, they're very misguided. They don't believe in the freedom of religion. First of all, they're out of sync with history because taxing the church is not an option that the state can exercise. The tax exemption of the church goes back before the United States of America. It goes back to before Christ. It goes back to ancient times, because it was always understood that the church is dealing with people from the point of view of God's kingdom, which is distinct from, not separated from, but distinct from the earthly kingdom. And so the church, by its very nature, has always been considered in history, again, not just in American history, but in world history, as in a different category. Now, the members of the church ought to be taught. The church hopefully is teaching them, no matter what the religion is, hopefully that religion is teaching its people to be good citizens. And so it's not that the two are supposed to be, battling each other. But when Democrats say, some of them have said, like I say, well, you look at the 2020 primaries, the Democrat primaries, you had at a certain point Beto O'Rourke in the mix. And he actually said at a certain point, this teaching that the Christian churches have about marriage as being only between one man and one woman, if they believe that, they ought not to have tax-exempt status, because they're looking at, gay rights and gay marriage as fundamental rights. Now that any organization that has, tax benefits from the government, they really ought to uphold those rights. That doesn't take account of religious freedom and of the fact that some people believe, a lot of people, most people, believe that there is such a thing as God's plan for marriage, and that you can actually believe that for a reason other than discrimination against gays. It's not because you hate or discriminate against people. It's because you believe God has a beautiful plan for human life and human marriage. So I think they're extremely misguided when they want to tax the church. They're out of sync with history. I don't think they understand where the tax exemption comes from. But more importantly, they don't understand religious freedom. Religious freedom is one of the reasons our founders came to this country, my friends. It's one of the reasons they came. Well, that's all the time we have for tonight. I really appreciate your involvement here, or whether you agree or not. I know the vast majority of you are just with us all the time, and you're strong supporters. And let's get involved. Let's get involved more than ever before in building the culture of life and defending our nation. God bless all of you. We'll be back with you tomorrow. And in the meanwhile, tomorrow's Thursday, isn't it? Tomorrow night we have The Light. Our program in the evening is our scripture study, pro-life and scripture. It's called The Light. And I hope you join us for that, as well as for Mass tomorrow. Tomorrow's the feast of the Transfiguration of Jesus. We'll have some beautiful things to say about that and what the scriptures say about that very special event in salvation history. So may the Lord bless each of you and strengthen you, protect you, answer all your prayers, and make you strong defenders of the unborn. May he bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father Frank Pavone here of Priests for Life. Talk to you tomorrow.